I was so wrong about Warsaw. Let me explain. I first moved to Warsaw during the summer and I lived in the center of the city. I was there for about 4 months and it was a lot. It was a big culture shift from Krakow, which was a lot more slower paced and relaxed. Now granted, it's not as fast paced as a place maybe like Los Angeles where I was from, but I still felt a very strong change in energy. And the energy change was so drastic that it took me a very long time to adjust. The people in the center of the city, I think, are a little bit more about status chasing, maybe social climbing, because you're in the heart of the capital. But after a few months, I decided to move out to Praga in a more chill area, and that changed my experience completely. My area is a lot more chill. It feels a lot more residential, almost like a smaller Polish town. But I'm still close enough to the center of the city that I can do any of my business when I have to go into the city. And this allowed me to appreciate the city a lot more. One of the things I was really nervous about was experiencing winter here. Winter in Warsaw normally is just dark, gloomy, not a lot of snow, just sad and depressing for a few months. But I'm pleased to say that this year has been very cold and there has been a lot of snow everywhere and the sun has been out quite a bit. And this makes a very big difference in your overall mood, how you feel. And because I live in an area now that forces me to use Polish every single day, my Polish has improved drastically since I've come to Warsaw. You can see it in my videos, you can see I did the interview for National Geographic. And overall, my career, I feel like, has improved very quickly since I arrived to Warsaw. How long do I plan on staying here? I'm thinking about maybe 3 to 5 years, but I don't think I would want to raise my kids at least in the heart of Warsaw, maybe in a suburb or one of the smaller cities. And we could talk about that in a different video. But I think for right now, for my life, for my career, Warsaw is the place to be. My experience in Warsaw has been a lot better because I speak Polish. If I didn't spend all that time to learning Polish and I was just living like a regular foreigner, I would not feel as connected to the country or to the people or really get to experience Poland to its fullest. And you don't even have to learn like amazing Polish. You can just speak the basics and speak maybe at like a solid A2 level and you can get by in most of the places in this country. And now what I've found is that Warsaw is a city full of opportunity and it's growing very quickly, a little bit too quickly sometimes. Prices actually have gone up quite a bit. I don't really spend a lot of time outdoors because even though you're dressed properly, being in -15 weather is crazy and you get cold very quickly and your skin kind of gets all messed up. And when you're on public transportation trying to get into the city and you see the frozen river or you walk around the parks and the snow and the houses and the trees, I feel like I'm finally experiencing like a true wintry vibe here in Warsaw. I really like that there is always something to do in the city. Even though I'm more of a homebody, I like staying at home. And Warsaw is like a big city and a small city combined. It has a lot of big city tendencies culture-wise, where people think bigger, you know, a lot of the social climbing, the status games that people play in the center of the city. But it's a small city because you are constantly running into people that you know. The city itself really is not that big. You can get to most places in the city under 30 minutes by public transportation. Like you can see and explore most of the city in a few months. I'm from Los Angeles, which I thought was a very big city, both population-wise and geographically. And here in Warsaw, it's nice to get that hustle and bustle energy, but it doesn't really feel that crowded yet because it only has a population of like 2 million people. Cost of living has gone up significantly because of many factors. Things are just getting more expensive in general. Also because of the exchange rate with the dollar. In about a year, the dollar has lost about 15, almost 20% of its powers. That is really good news for the country of Poland. It's bad for us as Americans. In general, life is still more affordable here than it would be living in many places in the US, especially for what you get. There's also a lot of investment and development happening in the city. It's very interesting to watch how much construction there is, how many new buildings are coming up. And I think that's an overall very good sign of Warsaw because the demand is going up and there's just a lot of movement going on in the city. One of the big problems though is that there are a lot of Ukrainians that are coming as refugees and buying a lot of businesses and properties here in Warsaw. I have some Ukrainian friends and they joke that, what is the biggest city in Ukraine? Warsaw. And this is actually kind of a big problem because a lot of the Ukrainians that came when the war initially broke out in 2014 have a different refugee status than the ones that came in 2022. And it's messed up because the people who have been here for 8 to 10 years have a much harder path to citizenship, whereas all the new people that came after 2022 have more rights, able to get citizenship a lot quicker, and are buying a lot of the properties here in the country, which are leading to property prices going up. A lot of people don't want to talk about this, but when you accept 2 million Ukrainians into your country, I mean, housing is growing, but not nearly as quickly as the Ukrainians coming in, and Ukrainians are buying a lot of the properties. What do you think is going to happen to property prices? Of course, it's going to go up. And that's why rent and property prices have gone up a lot. And the main reason for that is the war. I'm not saying anything bad about the Ukrainians. I'm just saying that this is simple supply and demand and something to think about. So let's talk about dating for a bit. Dating in Warsaw is interesting. I would not recommend it to most people. I think the way that a lot of Polish people meet is through social networks and their friends. As a foreigner, it's very hard to break into these circles, especially if you're only here temporarily or transiently. And this is one of the things we talk about in a strategy call, because where you choose to live will heavily impact your social experience here in Poland. When I finally moved to a place that had a much better social scene, I felt like it was easier to make friends. And now I have a lot of friends here and people that I've have strong relationships with, and it makes living in the city a lot better. As a foreigner, if you just stay in your apartment the whole entire time, especially during the winter, and you don't have a lot of friends, you don't know where to start, where to make friends, you don't have a lot of people that you can count on, it's very lonely. And I can see how people get depressed. This is my opinion and based on what I understand about Polish culture. There's a lot of dating coaches that come to Warsaw saying that it's one of the best places to date, and I highly disagree with that because it's getting saturated with a lot of dating coaches and pickup artists. The girls are getting smarter and understand what foreigners want. Poland as a country is a relationship-based society, even though in Warsaw it's a bit different, but in general people value relationships here, and most people meet their significant others through social networks, in university, through friends of friends. And that's why I think a lot of foreigners don't get the full experience here, because if you're here transiently, you're only probably friends with other expats. You don't really get to be involved with Polish groups and Polish people. And a lot of people just resort to dating apps to finding dates. Sure, you can find dates there, and some of my friends have met some nice girls there, but in my opinion, I think it's like the least effective method, especially for foreigners. For Polish people, apparently they've been able to meet through dating apps, but I don't know, I think dating apps are cooked and it's just a very bad way to meet people in general. And maybe you'll be able to meet a lot of people here in the big city, but I don't know, I feel like it gets harder to find something deeper and more long-term. I think the girls from the smaller cities are better because they value relationship a lot more. They're a little bit more conservative. I had this saying where, you know, if your girl comes from a small city and she's in Warsaw for a couple of years, it's only a matter of time before she becomes a Warsaw girl. And the competition here in Warsaw is fierce because there's a lot of foreigners that come in here with a lot of money that are spoiling a lot of these girls. And I think just the overall dating culture in Warsaw is lower trust and a lot more transactional than dating in some of the smaller cities. But if you were to go to the smaller cities, then you run into the issue of people generally not speaking English, you not getting access to a lot of the opportunities and the fun things to do in the big city. So, you know, there are trade-offs. I think Warsaw is the most foreigner-friendly city, especially if you live towards the center. Everybody speaks English. You don't necessarily need Polish to live here in Poland. I have so many friends who have been here 5 years, 7 years, 10 years and still don't speak Polish. I don't recommend that, but that's what a lot of people do. If you guys are thinking about moving to Poland, I highly recommend setting up a strategy call here where we can talk about where to live in the city, what Polish city would be best for you, what residency options you have. There are a lot of things to consider. I highly recommend setting up a call here.